the Gentlementor.
I do
That's
think
incredible.
2 points. One is I do think that it's important to use the word pride versus love because they're both important, and they're both things that we share with our children, and God, we share that with God, and like in all of our like meaningful relationships. But there's something uniquely important about pride. Like God looked at his creations and he was proud of them. That's what it says in scripture. God looked at his creations and he was proud. He loves them too. That's a different attribute, and it's important to separate them. And the second thing is there's this great story from Rabbi Twersky. He's a modern day rabbi, passed away recently, but from lived in America. He used to say that when his father was disappointed in him, the way his father would tell him, the way his father would discipline him was through these words. His name was Avraham, like my name. He would say,
How about that?
He would say, "Oh, that thing you did? Oh, Avram doesn't do that."
Interesting.
That's how he disciplined them. That's it. Like Avram. That's not something that Avram does. And then he made with it what he needed to. Like his father didn't come down hard on him, but his father profiled like Avraham, this special soul, this being, this created being that's gonna shed so much light into this world. Like he doesn't do things like that.
The last guy that I worked for told me a story about his dad when he would go out on weekend nights. And the only thing his dad would say to him, he wouldn't threaten him or give him any kind of, verbal fear. He would just say, "Remember your name."
Love it.
I was thinking about the story of Joseph. And when I hear the commandment, "Don't take the Lord's name in vain," I don't think about, when we grew up, it was about you don't say cuss words with God in it. I don't think that's what it is, obviously, but I think it's about honoring your name, that God has put his name on us in some way. And that whole honoring your father is just exactly what you were saying, Mark. It's not just the earthly father, it is the Father in heaven that we are supposed to honor. We are not supposed to bring dishonor. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. I think of it because there's this story that keeps popping up in my head I've been wanting to tell, and I'm putting it off, and you've been kind enough to set me up, so I'm going to go ahead and confess.
Go for it.
So here's my confession. I was a terrible father, but now I'm done, so it doesn't matter. Just kidding, it does. But here's why it matters. One of my favorite topics, things that we've talked about over and over again in Scripture, one of the things I love to discuss as a topic is this idea of the image of God, that we are made in the image of God, and like all the implications that go with that. And one of my jokes I always tell to people when they're experiencing it, we have friends now who are younger and some not younger who are experiencing the early stages of parenthood. They have small babies, and they become difficult sometimes. Small babies are rarely somebody you can reason with. And it becomes frustrating, and so I tell them, yes, this is why God, made us in his image. This is why our children look cute, because if they didn't, we'd leave them there. If we knew all the problem they were going to be for the next, 20 to 50 years, we just leave them at the hospital, but they're cute, so we bring them home. But there is an image of God thing that struck me as we were sharing, you guys were sharing all these stories and things, and I was thinking about, what? I think of this weird thing that happens, my children's worst mistakes, the things they messed up the worst. It was in that moment when I walked, I was a real specific example, when my daughter backed our weeks-old Jeep into the side of our house. I heard the sound. We have a brick house and a metal car hits it. You hear the sound. And I hear, noises from outside. And I'm coming out and I'm like, mega dad is rising up inside me. And I come around that corner and I see that little girl standing there with tears and her lip quivering. And I see me when I was that age and I was the kid making the mistake. And I knew how hard it was going to go. And I was bracing for it. And it diffused me like that. And all I could deliver was love and mercy and go, I know, you're probably going to beat yourself up for this forever, but don't do it. It's just a piece of metal. And standing outside of myself going, what?
kill her. No.
Doug, that's an amazing story. That's such an amazing story. You told your daughter in that like what was important to you. I mean, that was just like, that's such a special. Thank you for sharing that story. It's like a real life story.
It's one of a small handful of good ones I have.
Yeah,
Hey, and sometimes those are the things you were talking about, AVREMEL. Those are the defining moments that will define a child.
To this day, that's what she goes back to. Every time since that she's ever come to us to say, I need to tell you something difficult. And when it's all over and all the tears are done, she's like, I just remember that time when I wrecked the car and you didn't kill me.
Yep.
And I knew I could trust you to say it. That's the whole thing. It's long game. It's not one incident. It's not one conversation.
That's it. The long game.
So, Doug, I'll take it one step further, with your permission.
Go.
I used to think that it's the long game also, and I know that's not what you meant, but I started to realize that it's actually the moment in the relationship. Like, that's almost everything. And one of the things that helped me realize that is that, well, now I'm thinking of two things, but the first thing is God. In Kabbalah, we Hasidus, they talk about how God is actually creating the world every moment. So God's not bound by time and space. So for us, it's like there was a before creation, after creation. What does before creation look like? Yeah. How does if there's no limitations of time and space, like there was a void. A void from what? Like so.
There is no void. There is God.
Right. So the understanding is that God is constantly creating the world. In the Torah, you have these ideas of 10 utterances. I don't know if you ever heard those. And in Chassidus, it breaks down the 10 utterances. It's a very beautiful idea. But it made me start to realize that it's like each moment has its definition. Each moment, right, is a unique moment in creation. Like, it needed to be here. Otherwise, God wouldn't have put it here. Like, put me in this exact moment right now to be there for this child, for me to have this experience. So that's like one point that I think is very powerful. Like, it's not just about the long game. And I know that's not what you meant. But just
right.
Playing on the like.
Point taken. No, well, you take that moment and what do you do with it? You could build, you could do it, and not crediting myself with what I did with it. I did something I rarely did. I did the right thing. I could have easily done the wrong thing. Either way, she's going to continually reference that moment for the basis of everything else. So that one moment begins to equal a long game. All of those little moments stack together into a long game. But yeah, I appreciate absolutely.
It's a dividend. It's a dividend.
Yeah.
No, but the dividend, the challenge I have with the dividend is that, with the word dividend, is that there's something ulterior
Forget.
to look forward to beyond this moment. And the moment itself is what, if you're in the moment itself and you're cherishing the moment itself and you're not like thinking about the long game and the dividend, then you will fully be in that moment. And you can't.
Okay, fair enough.
At that
agree.
moment, I was in that moment. I had no idea what it equaled or that there would be dividend, payoff, long game, any of that stuff. In that moment, I was there freaking out because I was so in that moment going, I'm really mad. I'm not acting mad. What's going on?
What's that?
You made a sacrifice. You made a sacrifice. And in the moment you buy the share, there's a sacrifice. You part with something. That you worked hard to
He's invested
create.
in this stock market analogy. He's going to go full tilt.
So you still let go of that. You let go of that, and you hope. You only hope, because you don't know if you buy a share of stock. You don't know what it's going to pay 20 years down the road.
What's the analogy?
That you part with that moment, and you spend that moment with your child, regardless of the outcome. But yet it pays when she comes back to Doug 6 years later and says, I just remember that one moment that you did this, and I want to share this with you because it's really hard.
Right. It reminds me how I went to school, not in a Hasidic school, because my parents lived far away from a Hasidic town. And the school of thought in this school was more of like an area called Lakewood. They were they were serving God for the rewards that would come in the world to come. Like if you pinpointed them and like asked them, okay, so why do you do this? Like,
Yeah.
God said to do it, but and Hasidic philosophy is the opposite. Like the reward you get in this world is so much greater because this is the world that God wanted. This is the world that God wanted.
Yeah.
And
Andy, where's Andy?
And so it makes me think of like this Doug story and what you're saying, Mark, that yes, there is these dividends and there are these rewards, but what we should be most excited about is that moment right there that like
Right.
I had a spark, a connection with my child that is lasting. Look at the dividends.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the dividends, think about it from this perspective. When you get paid out dividends, what was the most impactful part of that whole experience? The moment that you bought that stock, not the dividends. Like the moment that you totally invest yourself.
Yeah.
And the dividends prove, kind of like showcase how amazing that moment was. Right? So it's really the secondary kind of a benefit. The primary benefit is the moment.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. Thanks, guys. That was nice.
Yeah.
No,
Glad I could be helpful tonight.
I couldn't tell what was going on there. Like, at moments you seem, this is great. And then at moments, no, and I can't tell. Is he? Yes, okay.
No, there's another thing that Doug said, which is like, just like we always have to remember that we're always talking to another human being, just like we're a human being, and it's not just like this. It's not a child.
Yeah.
Different. I found myself once I started meditating about that. I found myself starting to talk to my children with a lot more respect. Like the words I used, my vocabulary was much higher. And if I asked them, "Did you understand what I meant?" I'll then, give them the meaning to a word. But talk to them almost like I'm talking to an adult, and it totally changed my relationship with them. But Doug also said something that he's done with fatherhood, which I don't know if that's true, Doug.
What?
I mean, does fatherhood end when they leave the house?
No. That was just a joke. Just a joke. Just a
I
joke.
want to share with you that
No, it never ends. It never ends.
I want to share with you, I think as long as you're on this world, in this physical world, you're a father. I want to share you an amazing experience I had. I shared this with Mark. I went to Ukraine, and I went to go visit all these Hasidic masters, their grave sites, and the towns, little hamlets they lived in. Just like this most amazing experience. I told Mark about it because I was like on a high for a really long time. I'm still on a high. That was like in July. And it was the first, so I went with my brothers and for my father's birthday. This is a trip like he'd been dreaming about, but he just would never pull the trigger on his own. So we just like made it happen for him. And it was the first time he ever went there. My father, delves into the Hasidic discourses and ideas, and now he's actually going there. And I never ever saw my father have such an experience. He wasn't telling me what this Hasidic master said. He wasn't telling me what this Hasidic master says I should do. He was having his own experience, going to these places, praying at those grave sites, and on his own, like reading their books on Shabbos, on the Sabbath, like he sat in one of their, like a 300-year-old synagogue and learning their discourses. Like he was just in a different world, having his own experience. And what I learned from that, I'm out of my house, I got 6 kids, was so impactful and so powerful and so like something I'm going to always hold and cherish. And so I think fatherhood doesn't end. And the other point from that story is just be authentic. Just be authentic. Show your kids you're experiencing life just like they are. Guide them through the experiences that you could relate to, and you could relate to them. They're your children. God wouldn't give you children that you can't relate to. And you'll see like unbelievable dividends. Dividends.
He swung you. He swung
did.
you over.
He did.
You're talking about watching your dad and having these experiences, and I'm instantly thinking of my childhood, and I'm thinking of sitting in church and watching my mom. I was never I don't remember anything in church, anything a preacher said, anything that impacted me the way watching my mom and seeing that she was clearly having, everyone else was having religion. My mom was having some kind of an experience. There was something going on firsthand with her that I could identify from a very young age, and it's kind of been the catalyst for my entire spiritual trajectory, I guess. But yeah, I can relate to what you're talking about, but kind of you're at the other end of the scale. But yeah, cool, right. Man.
There's one other idea that we talked about, and I just want to mention one more point on it, which was like the idea of the negative energies and how God wants it, but not in and of itself, but for some ulterior motive. And I mentioned the idea of like closed systems and open systems, and when we talked about that, similar to like how the sun, the ray is just coming shining out, and it's totally the sun's glory is invested in that, and where you know a closed system you wouldn't have that. So Mark and I work a little bit in technology together. So in technology, I've had a big fear of integration. And haven't been for many years didn't integrate with other systems, and now we're like on this war path to integrate with anyone and everyone that can provide value for our customers. And it's been such an amazing experience talking to all these different companies, and it's amazing. Some of the companies have tremendous amount of overlap with us, and we're still we think there's a benefit here, and let's integrate it. It's also amazing to see how some people don't want to, and I'm looking back and like, oh, that was me. And when I think about it, there's a tremendous amount of fear associated with being a closed system and trying to maintain that, and kind of like that the Sitra Achra that says, I don't need God, I don't need anything from anyone else. I can do this all on my own. So the two words that are contrasted in that might not be contrasted in all frameworks, but from here I think of closed system as fear and open system as growth, actual growth, the ability to expand beyond yourself, right? Because you realize that you don't have everything, right? And that realization is a revelation of godliness. It's like a little revelation of godliness. I used to think in all these Kabbalistic texts, it says, godliness will be revealed. And I was like, oh, I never experienced that. And now I'm a little older. I'm like, every time I had an awareness, godliness was revealed. I was able to grow.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing. Maybe I can't touch, feel God. But then again, the reason why I can't do that is because I defined it like Mark defines God. I'm talking Mark. But the God that the famous story of the third Chabad Rebbe had a student that comes in and starts telling him how he doesn't believe in God anymore, and starts telling him why. The Rebbe looks at him and is like, oh my, we're on the same page. That God, I don't believe in either. Right?
That's funny.
God, and therefore we define the experiences that we're supposed to be having with him. Did you have an awareness? Were you able to grow?
That's good. Yeah.
That's a revelation. Celebrate that. We'll have a lot more.
Now we're getting into business coaching, growth mindset and fixed mindset. Now I could be there.
I was thinking about Andy's recent forays into the, we've been talking about a lot, the idea of come out and be separate from them. That there's a context. Well, he's thinking his Hasidic community would be a great example of a community that is kind of closed, but it's still semi-integrated. It's here in this world, in this country, in this state where you live, but it is kind of circled wagons kind of thing, where everybody's taking care of each other, kind of community within that greater system. So, but anyway, I don't know what that had to do with anything, but
well. Just, I know Doug has referred to Andy a couple of times. It's just he's a friend. Very
just asked.
Yeah,
sorry.
Very another confident, close guy that's kind of helps. He does some other projects with us, but I don't want to belittle Andy. But Doug keeps saying that as low, and I was like, I need to explain.
I'm sorry. I do that a lot. I just you're like family now, so I'm just naming names, assuming you know everybody.
Oh, you don't know who Aunt Susie is? No, I don't know.
Sorry, Andy's another guy. Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've been on for quite a while. We could go on some more. We're going to have you on again.
I think we definitely are going to have to.
Yeah,
at some point.
we didn't get a proper introduction of you as well. So I'm just going to
Well, he threw me off with that. What do you?
He did, but
yeah,
I love that. I love that. It's great. It's kind of
do it back to him.
So Rabbi, father of 6, husband of 13 years, right? In a couple of weeks, 13 years. That's what you told me. 14, coming up on 14 years. Okay. Rivki is an amazing woman if she has those kids, and well, she has 7 kids, right?
Yes. 100%.
So, and then CEO of Raise Giving. So if anybody's out there looking for a giving platform you want to use, check it out, raisegiving.com.
Thank you so much.
So there's your thing. I'm throwing it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Are you available on social media?
Yeah. I mean, if you could make
only
it
30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
If you can squeeze into 30-minute feet, then you're fine.
It's interesting now that my social media is more like business-like. I'm like, integrating with other systems, and on LinkedIn, so they know they're all sharing data. So all my social media is not my friends. It's like other businesses now, which is not. I don't know. Now I'm going on it less. What happens? We'll see what happens.
So we're
music session.
Music session?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? No, I'm out. See, I don't have a soul, so I can't do music.
Oh my gosh, Mark. Oh, there we go.
I can't. Yeah.
Plugged in. Oh, there it is. Woo!
Here's the niggin with words. We are
I'll sit in, that's for sure.
Battery's dead.
Okay, liato yoyedeko Eloika aroimeko Keliato yoyedeko Eloika aroimeko. That's one with words, a little different.
I don't have my lighter.
All right. So Vremel, I haven't got to, we haven't been able to speak off the record.
Is it record?
This is not off the record.
No, it is off the record.
Okay.
When podcast start? Is this whole an introduction?
We haven't started yet. Okay, push record.
This is warm up.
No. So this is completely out of the sight. We haven't got to speak about some of the things that I'm moving into. And we'll do that some other time because I know we're wanting to spend a Sabbath together, and so we're trying to make that happen. But
yeah, that'll be good.
I have a business. I'm trying to think what it is. A business report. If you could do me a favor and take 12 to 15 minutes, I'm going to send you a link. You fill out this business report thing, and it actually kind of measures your business based on the questions that you answer, and kind of gives you a report of where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are and what you can do. Kind of gives you an outline of some things you can do. So at some time when you've got free 12 or 15 minutes, I'm going to send you the link. I'd love to get your feedback on it so that I can present this to other business owners as well.
Yeah. And I'm excited to learn from that report. That's cool.
Okay. It's a pretty cool report. It just got released a few days ago. So I'm gonna send you a link.
Please send it to me. A good friend of mine once did that for it was pretty good. He put together, I think it was a series of 25 questions, and the questions were so good. And it basically gave you a report, the result of that questionnaire was what kind of teams you would work best with. So that was report. It's very different, but I was so impressed with how good the questions were to really, you know, be able to learn really quickly about somebody. Just to questions, right?
Right. Yeah.
Great.
This is a little bit more framed around, so your business is an airplane in the sense. And so leadership is in the cockpit. The wings are products and services. The engines, if you imagine two engines on a Dreamliner, for example, a 787, they're marketing and sales and marketing. The fuselage is overhead, and the fuel is cash flow.
Okay, so I'm imagining a Concorde. What would it be on a Concorde?
Same thing. Concorde's an airplane, same thing. So if any of those things get out of whack, you crash your plane. If you don't have cash flow, if the fuselage gets too big, if your overhead is too big, your sales and marketing doesn't have enough, your wings, your products and services don't have enough lift, the plane crashes. You don't have pilots in, you don't have the right leadership, the plane crashes. One engine goes out, if you got sales and marketing humming and sales goes down, your marketing can carry it for a little while. Same thing, if marketing goes down, your sales can carry it for a while. But if you got two engines, one of them can carry the whole thing for a while, probably to the safe place to crash, but you've got to have it. Anyway, that's what the whole concept is around. And I'll send it to you, and then we can chit chat about it some other time.
Oh, that's awesome.
I would love it.
Doug, so nice meeting you. I hope we get a chance to connect our souls another time.
Yes, my friend, I would love to. Thank you so much for being here. It was a treat.
We will.
Awesome. Take care, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, my friend. Good night.
Stopping the...
The Gentlementor.